Hello, I'm Pastor Marie-Louise Nangwa from Douala in Cameroon. Welcome to Let's Master Spiritual Law. We continue with the sixth part of our theme, Spiritual Status and its Impact on the Enjoyment of God's Promises. We have seen in the last video that the decision of the spiritual world can cause effect on the physical body, such as diseases, diseases of the bowel, diseases of the skin, infirmity, and even physical death. Today we are going to study the effect of the decision of the word of God on the fruit of the womb. Because God ordained man to multiply and fill the earth, having children is something normal according to his purpose. He promised in Deuteronomy 28 verse 9 to bless the fruit of the womb of those who obey his commandments. In the book of Genesis chapter 20, we see that all the women of the house of Abimelech were struck with barrenness by God after Abimelech abducted Abraham's wife. They could only put an end to the scourge following the prayer of Abraham. Is this not a proof that the invisible can influence the capacity to procreate? An example of a curse to not have children appears in Jeremiah 22 verse 30. Write this man down as childless. Or in Jeremiah 16 verse 2. You shall not take a wife, nor shall you have sons or daughters in this place. When the spiritual world decides that a woman, for example, should not have children, the procedure of execution varies according to the different strategies summarized in the following scriptures from Hosea 9 verse 11 to 12 of the New International Version of the Holy Bible. Ephraim's glory will fly away like a bird. No bird, no pregnancy, no conception. Even if they rear children, I will bereave them of everyone. Woe also to them when I turn away from them. All the proposition of this verse correspond to a different strategy to hinder procreation and come under a particular curse. In Hosea 9 verse 12, let us focus on the proposition no conception, corresponding to the no conception curse. If the wicked decide to implement the strategy that corresponds to no more conception, the victim will be prevented from conceiving and will be able to summarize this by saying, I never missed my period. They can prevent conception by methods that science will not be able to diagnose, to the point gynecologists after examination will say everything in the reproductive system is normal. They can also prevent conception by maintaining a venereal disease, source of infertility. Now, let us look at the proposition no pregnancy, corresponding to the no pregnancy curse. The no pregnancy curse strategy corresponds to the case where the conception has taken place, is confirmed by a pregnancy test, but is destroyed a few days or weeks later, even before symptoms of pregnancy have had time to manifest. In some women, this occurs after a wet dream or after a stinking sensation by a worm in the lower abdomen or fallopian tubes. There is also the proposition no birth, corresponding to the no birth curse. If the wicked decide to implement the no birth strategy, it will correspond to the case in which the woman conceives well, the pregnancy evolves until it is visible but does not reach its term. This is the equivalent of the curse to miscarriage as described in Hosea 9 verse 14. Give them, O Lord. What will you give them? Give them a miscarrying womb and dried breast. Still in the framework of birth prevention strategy, they can implement the following variants contained in Jeremiah 20 verse 17. Because he did not kill not from the womb, that my mother might have been my grave, and her womb always enlarged with me. Thus the wicked can pronounce as curse the following variant: let her children die in her bosom, and this will result in repetitive miscarriages. The curse, let her be a grave for her baby, correspond to the case where it is not discovered early enough that the fetus no longer lives, to the point where the fetus gets rotten in the womb, putting the mother's life in danger. Most often, cases of fetal death in the womb are discovered at most a month later, thanks to the evolution in prenatal follow-up. When these conditions are not met, the dead fetus solidifies and takes the form of a stone. It can thus remain in the woman for several years. In December 2013, Colombian doctors discovered in the womb of an 82-year-old woman a dead fetus of 40 years. Medicine described this phenomenon as lithopedic and has identified 300 of such cases worldwide. I am glad to note that during these 40 years, the Colombian woman was a grave for her baby, and this corresponds to the curse described in Jeremiah 20 verse 17. What is described by the phrase, and her womb always enlarged with me, correspond to pregnancies going beyond the normal term. Nowadays, as soon as a pregnancy reaches 9 months, doctors trigger the delivery. There was, however, one case in 1990 in England where doctors discovered that although the pregnancy was theoretically heavy, they were unable to initiate the delivery, and this patient eventually brought forth after 13 months to a baby weighing only 1.360 kilograms. Until 216, according to science, this English woman held the record for the longest pregnancy. Yet here in Africa, we have had to see cases of pregnancies for 18 months and even 2 years. If I had said that in 2015, rational readers would have thought that these were unfounded assertions based on superstition. In August 2016, a Chinese woman named Wan Shi had to undergo a cesarean section during her 18-month pregnancy. This can be verified. The doctors associate this to a poor development of her placenta, which prevented childbirth. I remember that if the invisible chooses to act on the development of a placenta, it can lengthen the term of a pregnancy, which corresponds to a curse. Another curse variant is for some women to have stillborn. In other words, the pregnancy reaches its end, but the child died shortly after birth or a few hours later. The last proposition of Hosea 9 verse 11 to 12 corresponds to the most wicked curse of child deprivation. This curse is summarized in the expression, if they raise the children I will cut them off before they are men. The wicked say that in the worst case, if the victim, in spite of the previous curses, succeed in bringing a birthing child, they have the right to undertake everything in order to kill him in his early childhood or in his youth. Not only will the victim find himself without children as they have decided, but she will know the pain of losing loved one she had sought for so much more. Far from the idea of saying that the curse of child deprivation only exists for women, there is also curse of child deprivation in men. When the curse of child deprivation of children is pronounced on a man, this can be implemented through diseases such as azoospermia or oligospermia. When these diseases are the result of a curse, treatment do not give any improvement. Such a curse can also be brought about either by definitive impotence or by sexual weaknesses or transient erectile dysfunction, occurring only during the fertile period of the latest wife. Do not hesitate to subscribe to the channel Came of God channel in order to receive all the next video. Just press the red button subscribe below the video. Now, let us study the effect of the decision of the spiritual world on relationship. We will start by focusing on the most common of these effects, namely rejection or opprobrium. It can be the consequence of a curse, an enchantment, or a condemnation whose aim is to provoke hostility, rejection, or disgust on a person. This can be pronounced between a victim and another person, or between the victim and all those around him. It is a decision of the spiritual world intended to affect relationship of people. We can read in the New International Version Bible in Psalm 31 verse 11 to 12. Because of all my enemies, I am the utter contempt of my neighbors. I am a dread to my friends. Those who see me on the street flee from me. I am forgotten by them as though I were dead. Utter contempt or opprobrium is severe criticism of a person by a large group of people. It is the worst punishment that can be attributed to a man on the relational level, which is to degrade him in the eyes of his relatives. One can notice in this passage that the psalmist did not get along with his neighbors, realizing that his friend tended to avoid or flee. He does not incriminate his neighbors or his friends. He does not say, "My neighbors are wicked, my friends are wicked." He indexes his enemies as being responsible for this situation. The opponent evoked here are the spirits charged with executing a curse to rejection. The adversaries are the wicked who have pronounced or commanded this curse. The fact of being forgotten is the corollary of a curse to rejection. I am forgotten of earth as a dead man. Anyone who could have helped the victim in the situation in which she found herself, forget her. When he underwent the decision of the spiritual world over his life, Job said in the book of Job, chapter 19, verse 13 to 14, "He removed my brethren from me, and my friend turned away from me. I am abandoned by my relatives. I am forgotten by my friends." The behavior of Job's relative was influenced by this decision of the invisible, for as soon as God decided to cancel the letter, they remembered him again, as we can read in Job 42 verse 11. Then all his brother, all his sister, and all those who had been his acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house. And they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Let me present you now an example of a curse to rejection from the Bible. It is the story between Abimelech and the people of Shechem. Although this story is too long, I want us to read it. It is written in Judges 9, verse 1 to 6. Then Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem to his mother's brothers and spoke with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the hearing of all the men of Shechem, which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal reign over you, or that one reign over you. Remember that I am your own flesh and bone. And his mother's brother spoke all these words concerning him in the hearing of all the men of Shechem. And their heart was inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, He is our brother. So they gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-Berith, with which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless men, and they followed him. Then he went to his father's house at Ophrah and killed his brother, the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, on one stone. But Jotham, the younger son of Jerubbaal, was left because he hid himself. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, all bed below, and they went and made Abimelech king beside the terebinth tree and the pillar that was in Shechem. So Abimelech became king by force and relying on the support of the inhabitants of Shechem, from where his mother was born. We see him here in phase with these people in harmony. Jotham, one of the sons of Jerubbaal, having escaped the massacre, organized a retort. Having no strength, no money, no support from the people, he turned to God, so to the invisible world. He went to the top of the Mount Gerizim and uttered a free word in a loud voice, of which here is an excerpt. It is written in Judges 9, verse 7 to 20. Now when they told Jotham, he went and stood on top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted his voice and cried out. And he said to them, Listen to me, you men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. Now therefore, if you have acted in truth and sincerity in making Abimelech king, and if you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as he deserves, for my father fought for you, risked his life, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. But you have risen up against my father's house this day, and killed his 70 sons on one stone, and made Abimelech, the son of his female servant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If then you have acted in truth and sincerity with Jerubbaal, and with his house this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and Bet-Millo. And let fire come from the men of Shechem and from Bet-Millo and devour Abimelech. Gerizim was the mountain where people stood to pronounce blessing, while Mount Ebal was reserved to the proclamation of curses. In fact, Jotham took God as a witness and reported the fact, appealing to his justice. He pronounced a conditional blessing and curse, the execution of which depended on the verdict of God. The sentence chosen by God will be enforced, since it was pronounced on Mount Gerizim. While Abimelech had already reigned 3 years, the effect of the curse were felt, as we can read in the following scriptures. Judges 9, verse 23 to verse 27. God sent a spirit of ill will between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech, that the crime done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be settled, and their blood be laid on Abimelech their brother, who killed them, and on the men of Shechem, who aided him in the killing of his brothers. And the men of Shechem set men in ambush against him on the top of the mountains, and they robbed all who passed by them along that way. And it was told Abimelech. Now Gal, the son of Ebed, came with his brothers and went over to Shechem. And the men of Shechem put their confidence in him. So they went out into the field and gathered grapes from their vineyard and threw them and made merry. And they went into the house of their God and ate and drank and cursed Abimelech. The curse pronounced by Jotham manifested itself firstly by the disappearance of the attachment which has justified the support of the people of Shechem. It was accompanied by an unfaithfulness to the authority and act of vandalism. The evil spirit sent by God then used a certain Gal, son of Ebed, and his brother. They later gained their confidence and activated to mount them against Abimelech. He even succeeded in pushing them to curse him in the house of their God. The following passage recounts some of Gal's words. We can read in Judges 9, verse 28 to 29. Then Gal, the son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal? And is not Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem. But why should we serve him? If only these people were under my authority, then I will remove Abimelech." So he said to Abimelech, "Increase your army and come out." The governor of the city, a certain Zebul, having heard that Gal was saying, secretly sent messenger to inform Abimelech of this situation, which looked like an uprising. He also suggested he come with the people who were with him to lay an ambush to the people of Shechem and to fall upon them with frenzy. They later did not hesitate to comply, and very soon both sides positioned themselves for war. A terrible battle, described from verse 37 to verse 49, resulted between Abimelech and the people who were with him on the one hand, and those of Shechem under the leadership of Gal. The king of Abimelech took the upper hand and massacred the inhabitants of Shechem, as well in their city as in the country. He razed the city of Shechem and sowed salt there. In a panic, the survivors took refuge in the tower of Shechem, which sheltered their God. Informed of this, Abimelech asked his troops to put wood round the fortress and set it on fire. Over 1,000 men and women of Shechem died by the fire. After massacring the people of Shechem with their victory, Abimelech then launched his troops against the city of Thebez. And the event took another turn, as we read in Judges 9, verse 50 to 57. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, and he encamped against Thebez and took it. There was a strong tower in the city, and all the men and women, all the people of the city, fled there and shut themselves in. Then they went up to the top of the tower. So Abimelech came as far as the tower and fought against it. And he drew near the door of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper milestone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Then he called quickly the young man, his armor bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me. Let men say of me, a woman killed him." So his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Abimelech was dead, they departed, every man to his place. Thus, God repaid the wickedness of Abimelech, which he had done to his father by killing his 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem God returned on their own heads. And on them came the curse of Jotham the son of Jerubbaal. The evil spirit sent by God in order to execute the curse pronounced by Jotham had achieved its mission. The fire actually came out of Shechem to consume Abimelech, and vice versa. The people of Shechem were decimated. The city itself was razed and sown with salt, and therefore rendered unfit for any vegetable production. Abimelech was dead. We see, however, that Abimelech, despite his trained troops, could not defeat the people of Thebez, for the fire coming from him had a well-defined target, which were the people of Shechem. The curse did not give him the power to destroy the people of Thebez. The story of Abimelech and the people of Shechem attest that a curse can influence relationship between individuals. Imagine for a moment that someone who is jealous of you is asking an enchanter to make a fire come out of you to devour your boss, your spouse, and your loved ones. Your relationship with these people will certainly be affected, and you will inevitably suffer. We learn from this section consecrated to the curse to rejection that when a person realizes at a certain point in his or her life that without a dispute or a problem, all his relations are avoiding him or her, instead of blaming them, he or she must rather ask whether he or she has not been the subject of a spiritual decision against his or her relation life. Because relational life includes our relationship with colleagues, collaborators, employees, bosses, suppliers, customers, our families, our friends, the curse to rejection can actually affect all areas of a man's life. Do not hesitate to subscribe to the channel Came of God channel in order to receive all the next video. Just press the red button subscribe below the video. See we next week, God willing. God bless you.